Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to discuss chapters 6 through 10 of the Unholy Consult. And as always, I am here with Daniel and Katerina. Daniel, do you want to start off the terrible introductions so we can get into the good stuff?
Hi, I'm Daniel. I've read these books a few times now, and Steve and Katerina are just finishing the series,
Hmm, it's kind of
and I'm
sad.
trying to help them sort through the strings, I guess.
Yeah, we will have a lot to sort through this time, I think. I felt many feelings reading these 5 chapters, and I have a
Yes,
lot of questions.
yes. I always forget to mention, but it is my first time reading the series as well. Out of all the, I don't know, it feels weird to say, but I think I enjoy. It feels weird to say you enjoyed chapters like this, but I couldn't put it down. It was so much fun. Again, it feels weird to say these are fun, but I really enjoyed these chapters. It was almost like a fever dream. It was very surreal, and coming to this point, we've been building to this moment or these moments for a long time, and we're not even in Golgotha yet. But to see all these things start to come together, and it was very satisfying to be so close.
I might have an unpopular opinion here.
Uh oh.
Um, I, d- I was happy to see that some of the things that we've been building towards, we finally have the resolution for them. But the way they happened, it's like a lot of it felt like very like it just happened like so quickly, and I guess I was a little bit underwhelmed, and I'm not sure that I've bought the reasons for some of the decisions that Callus made a long time ago that they now came to fruition. Um, and I feel like there was a lot of walking in these chapters too for some reason. Although I don't feel like we actually uh, traveled much, but it felt like there was just I don't know. It was very arduous
Hmm.
for me at least.
Interesting. Yeah, Daniel and I were talking before we started recording, but I think since we've been building to this moment or these moments for so long, I think it kind of made sense for us to linger here a little bit, just to kind of build, to kind of I don't say build attention, but to kind of savor the moment that we've gotten so far. We're to this point, and it didn't feel it. I don't think they really traveled very far, but it felt like they traveled because it's almost like they got to the doorstep and then they just kind of all these other things happened, which is very dark and bleak. And just when you thought it couldn't get any bleaker, here we go.
I will say that a lot of the characters that we've parted ways with in these last few chapters, I was expecting to make it at least to Golgotha,
Hmm.
like Proyas, Doronga. Um, I did expect them to fight alongside Kellis or alongside Sorwheel in Golgotha. So the fact that they gone now, like at this point, like before we actually got there, that was quite surprising.
But are they gone?
I mean, I like I think Zoronga did not deserve to leave so soon. So if you tell me he's coming back, I will be very happy. Uh, but it didn't look like it was coming back.
Hmm.
This is only a fraction of any of their lives. They're all going to be eternally damned. They're all going to be somewhere still. Pro,
Are they though?
Proyas in the worst place, probably.
See, I'm not even sure anymore because then Kellis, there was this part where Kellis starts talking about like how everything that happens that is connected to the Ark and to the Unholy Council, like how that is sort of like how it
Trans
happens.
transforms the 100.
Yeah, how it sort of like happens outside of like the outside. So I don't even know like if like I don't even know if they're actually in hell or not. Like you would think so, but then what if the it's not the field of polling, but what if the area around the ark is actually like uh not connected to the outside? I mean we can talk like, I guess we'll talk about it later or maybe we can talk about it now. But I'm just getting more and more unsure about everything.
We
Yeah,
can talk about it now if you want. Yeah.
when
Oh,
Kellis
sorry, Dan.
said, what did Kellis say? He basically said that his lie was the truth, that he came to save the world. It was a lie, and it was also the truth. And all he can do is talk the truth now because he's in the shadow or the darkness. He's gone too deep.
What?
The
I mean,
part
no, like
where Kellis tells Proyas that he lied to him, but the lie was also the truth. Kind of like the meat situation. Kellis didn't directly say it, but he insinuated it in all aspects, and then, like I said it was the wrong decision, just in front of everyone to regain his terrible blasphemous army.
I'm like trying to find like a right starting point for like us talking about this because there was like a lot of information and also a lot of things just happened to people and then we still have like Nayor and Moengas like like I guess we can say now like basically all the threats have sort of come together except for Moengas and Nayor. Um, so I don't know if maybe we want to talk about New York first and then the rest, or I don't know.
Sure.
I'm trying to find some structure here because it's a lot.
Guess we can
Yeah.
cover the people that are outside first. So we can cover Nair and then Akamian and then the host itself, maybe.
That was the oddest family reunion ever, right?
And like you were saying, they were all walking, kind of. Akamian was walking his little path. Serway and Sorwil were kind of teleporting and then walking. The Great Ordeal was kind of stumbling and doing terrible things.
Yeah.
It reminded me of, I don't know if you guys have ever watched Fear and Loathing, but there's a scene in it where Johnny Depp like takes acid in a casino in Las Vegas, and everyone becomes like lizard people, and there's blood all over the floors, and they're all like, it's like a big orgy of lizards and blood everywhere. That's that's pretty much what the Great Ordeal became for a minute.
um.
From
Okay,
Sor-
let's.
from Sorwell's eyes, it was rough. Oh yeah, but back to Nair and Moingus.
Oh yeah, let's start with Nayor then. So there's this paragraph at the beginning of the chapter where I think yeah Nayor sees a person coming up from a pool and then the person opens their mouth and there's like an earthworm coming out of their mouth and please explain that to me. I mean I wasn't sure like was this supposed to be a dream or did this actually happen? Is this Moangas from after he fell or jumped from the mountain or is this like a dream that Nair is having about Moengas, or is it not even Moengas? Is it someone else who's turquoise eyed and young?
Hmm.
What what can you tell us, or what are we supposed to know? Are we ever supposed to know? Um,
I don't know. I told Steve one paragraph confused me, and that was just like a one little sideline paragraph. But
Hmm.
turquoise eyed definitely insinuates Sylvendi. An earthworm out of the mouth, I don't know. And it's like he's looking at his own reflection too, so it kind of goes along with Steve calling this whole thing a fever dream.
yeah, I did feel it did read more like a dream to me. And I guess there are some like sexual undertones with regard to the earthworm. Um, but I don't know. I was thinking maybe it's like Moenga's jumped from the mountain from like up high and ended up in a pool, and then just Nayor found him and he swallowed an earthworm. That sounded maybe too wild.
I think
Who
it
let
sounds like I'm sorry,
who
Daniel.
let who go in that situation? Surway thinks she let him go, and he thinks he like jumped free of them.
Well, I think she sort of insinuated that she manipulated him to want to jump. That's what I got from her conversation with Sorwheel, at least. Um, that she had she slept with Sorwheel in a very obvious way so that Moengus would notice, and that kind of pushed him to jump from the top of the mountain.
So
But
both are true.
I mean, I guess from Moengus's perspective, yeah, he thinks he made that decision.
I did think it was interesting that that Moengus uh, was able I don't say deal with, but was able to endure the things that Neor did to him because of what happened to him before. So it's like, yeah, this is nothing. So
Yeah, that was pretty. I mean, I guess it put things into perspective. Like if Naor doesn't scare you, what happened to you previously? That must have been just awful.
mm,
Or what happened to the memories that are in his head. Oineral, because he seems to despise the horns of Golgothroth, even though
hmm.
he shouldn't know what they are.
And a lot of emphasis is put on the horns. It mentions the horns a lot, and I don't know why. No, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. But I thought it was a little strange that it mentions the horns so much. That has to. I'm guessing there's some kind of meaning to that. I just don't know what it is.
I don't know. I just kind of assume it's like a point of convergence for everyone, and yeah, I guess there's so monumental, like the fact that you can see them from so far away, and um, they have this like inhuman aspect to them. I mean, it seems like the kind of a thing that would draw everyone's attention. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess that's also where everyone seems to be headed. Um, but
Let's
yeah,
see.
they mentioned the horns a lot.
The skins the when the skin spy walked in with Moengus, uh, did you Katerina, did you know that that was the skin spy, or did you think it was someone else because it didn't explicitly say at first?
Um, Yeah, I think I just assumed it was the skin spy. I think we knew from last week that
Mm.
um she or it was accompanying Naor. So I don't see many other blonde, good-looking women hanging out around Naor. But
Daniel's
um, but yeah, I guess my I guess I'm still. I guess we didn't. I don't know. I didn't feel like we learned that much about in this chapter, except maybe for the fact that Naor is still like very much set on revenge. That's his main motivator. He wants to destroy Callus, and somehow, in some way, he's made a pact with the council, but it's not clear like what exactly it is, like to what extent they're actually collaborating and what role exactly the skin spice playing there.
That the skin spy wants him dead, and for some reason, Air hasn't killed him yet. He's just made him his dog son instead.
His dog son and his dog skin spy.
Yep, I guess dogs hate each other.
Hmm.
But she obviously thought he should be dead already, and for some reason he's not. And now he knows that. So why is Nair keeping him alive?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe does he maybe have a soft spot for Moengus?
You know, there's another thing that kind of like an undertone in all these in these last few chapters, and even in this maybe even in this book is a lot of discussion about love and like why love or so I think we're starting to see some these characters have a little bit of that like they are capable of love. So I thought maybe it was Nora's doesn't want to kill Moingus because he has a soft spot for him. Maybe he sees himself in him and doesn't can't do it. But
Maybe. Yeah, could be. And but then he also has this speech about how basically he hates everything and everything is weak and the world is weak and so he has to destroy. Basically, his mission is to destroy the entire world. Um, so it's ambiguous.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Were you
Uh,
guys what were you guys expecting a father-son meeting between them two ever?
Now I'll admit that that's something that never really occurred to me could happen.
no, I didn't think so either. I just thought it was a like they would never cross paths, but here we are. I don't know. So I've now that they have met and have this weird family reunion, I think it's going to play a big part in the conclusion somehow with Kellis. I'm assuming that Neora's Kellis are going to have to face off or kind of settle this eventually, and Moingus will probably play a big part in that, whichever way it goes. Maybe Neora doesn't kill Moingus because he thinks he can use him against Kellis somehow. Like he can, I don't know.
He could kill two Moinguses though.
Well, he failed to kill the first one, really. So maybe history is supposed to is going to repeat maybe history is going to repeat itself, and he's going to fail to kill this Moing as well.
Hmm. Is this getting harder, Daniel, for you? Now that we're getting towards the end, to not spoil anything.
I don't know. Things are happening now, so I can't spoil very much of some characters' futures. I can't spoil anything that happens to Sabon anymore.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
R.I.P. Saban.
Sybil, R.I.P. Eaten by Proyas.
But is he actually dead? Because I thought he was. I mean, he wasn't. He wasn't exactly alive when Proas ate him. I think. I mean, in the sense that he was like in this sort of like in between state where he was like kind of in hell, but not really.
So he was eaten and taken advantage of alive by Proyas, is what you're saying? And he's still alive?
Maybe parts of him somewhere.
It was a it was a bad couple days for the Great Ordeal.
I'm surprised like none of them died of infection. Like considering this I mean what they ate when they attacked the scalded. It's
And that,
suspicious that so many of them made it out alive.
You know, I had this theory that I don't know if I ever said it out loud because it sounded kind of silly, but I had this theory about the Shrank being originally human, that they were converted by eating Shrank meat. Like they eat Shrank and they became Shrank. They somehow converted people to Shrank. But the Shrank meat started to wear off, right, when they stopped eating Shrank for a while. So Proria started to kind of snap out of it a little bit. Everyone started to realize what they had done. I felt really bad for Proyas because having him come off of that and realize all the things, all the terrible things he's done, and to for was it Surwa who came and found him and was like, "Where's my brother?" and like, "What are you doing? Like, what's going on here?" It's kind of like, you know, to be caught, to be found by someone who hasn't experienced what they'd experienced, and someone on the outside looking into them and saying, there's like heads impaled and there's you're eating each other and all these things are happening, and what are you doing, like what's going on. So it was a very I felt very awkward for Proyas.
the part where he asks, "Can I eat it? can I can I eat the meat?" And then Sirway and Sorwil are like, "Whoa!" And then Coyotes is like, "Of course, eat that meat."
I mean, it was terrifying, but also very funny. I mean, yeah, but I mean, I think your theories sounds pretty solid. I do wonder what would happen. What would have happened if the ordeal men continued eating the meat? Like, would they have turned into strength eventually, or what? Would they just be like human but still like behaving like the strength?
Or Shrink are like non-men, right? So they'd be a version of Shrink, maybe a human version,
Yeah,
which,
but
which would probably be uglier. They always talk about the non-men to be like the most beautiful things in the world. So the Shrink are probably similar, even though they're terrible.
Hmm.
They probably
mhm.
look like weird elves still, kind of. Human
Well,
Shrink would be worse. I think it would be. I don't know. It would be bad.
well, I guess the strength ran out, so we'll never find out. But Sorreal did mention somewhere, I remember that there was a cure for for whatever happened to them when they ate the meat. But I don't think he ever said what it was.
Yeah, they disregarded it. No one was trying to hear that. They're all sobering up now, anyways.
Yeah, he and Zoronga had different uh priorities when they were talking about that.
Yeah, that's something else. Yeah, it is kind of hard to find it like a starting place to discuss all this, just because it's all over the place. But
Uh,
um,
yeah. Was there anything? Did Maimara or Kamian do anything important in this chapter?
mm,
They just made it to Golgotharoth. Proyas seen him.
Right. They saw Proyas hanging on the rope,
oh yeah,
but I'm not sure. So I think Proyas recognized Akami, and he I think he even called to him, but I don't know that Akami noticed that Proyas was still alive.
Nope. And that was before Kellis picked him back up the first
the
time. Maybe the only time.
power is damnation.
Mm, yeah, I don't think there was anything else with Maimara.
Let's see.
Did you guys finally understand why Kellis had to break Proyas all the way down?
I
Does
mean,
that make sense?
I understood it, but I'm not sure I buy it. The whole reasoning that if Callus, not if Callus, if Proyas wasn't a non-believer, that um he wouldn't listen to Callus's order, and he would never order the ordeal to eat the scalded. I mean, I don't know. Proyas seemed pretty keen to do anything that Callus told him to do. I so I I mean, I understand that Kellis. I can understand that Kellis needed a scapegoat, that he needed to sacrifice someone important to help the men justify the things they did. But I'm not sure I'm convinced that breaking Proyas was necessary in order to do that.
I think I forget what chapter it was, but they might have been in chapter 6. They just I forget who was it said it, but I think Serba said it. Um, that the Dunyan value faith and not trust. That's kind of what I thought. That's why Kellis needed him to have faith, needed to break him down and rely on his faith and not trust, and not just follow orders, but it be like a deeper, something deeper than just following orders. Like he needed to believe in what they were doing, and not just do it because he was told. Is that, I don't know if that makes any sense.
I don't know. I feel like of all the Zadunyani, Proyas was probably the most, or one of the most faithful ones already.
Hmm.
Um, he was like a true believer. Um, so I don't know. It just seemed like I think he could have just told him to do it, and he would have done it.
What'd be the fun in that though?
Kellis didn't seem to think so, right?
Yeah,
I think,
I mean, yeah.
am I wrong, or did Proyas even say all you had to do was tell me to do it and I would have did it? And Kellis said, no, you're stubborn.
Yeah, he did say that, but I can't help but think that Kellis underestimated Proyas's faith in Kellis. But I mean, in at the end of the day, it makes for a good arc for Proyas, I guess. I mean, good in terms of storytelling, not for Proyas the person, obviously.
I wasn't there eating people's lips, so I don't know. I don't know how I would feel.
Did you feel bad for Proyas, Steve? Like, what did you?
I really did. Yeah, because he coming off of it, and he's become the scapegoat. Yeah, I felt really terrible for him, for that character. Um, I was trying to think who's gotten it worse than Proyas.
I mean, Doringa, he didn't do anything. Like, I mean, I will argue, like, Proyas maybe kind of deserved it. You know, like he did a lot of bad stuff
Yeah,
when he was under Kellis. Um, I felt, I don't know, like I get that in some way he was like trying to be a good person, but really what he was just a fanatic. Um, and now someone's like so obsessed with like following the rules and like being the judge of like what's right and what's wrong, and so it, I don't know, like so narrow minded in certain ways that I don't like. Obviously, like him becoming the scapegoat is like that sucks, but you know, like taking things in balance, I feel like he had a lot to he did a lot of things that he should pay for.
Kellis told him he's going to be paying for him forever.
hmm
I mean, it's just, but it's not. I mean, it can't be just him like eating people, like he like thousands of people. I mean, I think there's like one part in the previous book where he like thinks he's thinking back to like some old what did they call it, campaigns where like they would massacre cities and they would like kill just babies like in hundreds and thousands, and like he had a lot of like, I mean, I did come to like Proyas especially in these latter books, but at the same time he had a lot of blood on his hands. um so out of the two, like out of Proyas and Zoronga, I definitely feel like Proyas was the one more deserving of that ending. um
Hmm.
I felt really bad for Zoronga.
The
I was really hoping that he would stick for at least a little bit longer.
his his Zumi father did that to him. Shouldn't have betrayed and tried to take over the empire. Sure, the kid didn't deserve it, but in a way, he was kind of also very one track minded. He just wanted Kellis dead, and that was the only thing that mattered to him. And Kellis
Yeah,
still isn't dead.
he's not. I I mean, I kind of wonder like why does Kills care about Zoom anymore? Like the empire is gone. It does, like Zoom's like on the other side of the world. There's nothing they can do to Kellis anymore. So why does he care? Like why does he go the extra mile to take revenge on the Sadakan, the Zoronga's father? Why does he even bother? And why does he? I mean, I get like again, like Zoronga may be a scapegoat. Like it helps the cause it helps with the situation, the great ordeal. Like fine, but just speaking about Zeum, why does it matter if like who rules in Zeum? And like it's so far away. It's
Hmm.
not significant for the ordeal. It's not significant what's happening like around Golgothrath. Why care? Why waste energy? Why get rid of like why lose like one of your Sifrang? Um like why lose them on Zeum? What's the point? Why does it matter?
I might be totally off here, and I might feel like a complete moron later on the book, later when we get to the end. But there were a couple of things that, um, like like that plot thread that I thought he maybe developed and didn't know where to take it. So he's still kind of, I don't know. He's not sure how to tie them up, but maybe I'm wrong. But it felt a little like he'd created these plot threads, and it's like, what do I do with this now? Like we're nearing the end.
I don't know. I mean, it felt like a very, when he takes the ciphering head and puts it on Malawebi's body and sends him to Zoom. It felt like a very emotional response by Kellis to what happened in Momum. So maybe that could have been like Kellis acting on an impulse or on an emotion, but I don't know if it was premeditated. I'm not seeing the point of it, really.
There was a line. Let me see if I can find it about because you mentioned the Sifrang. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, this was the shortest path, the way of Sifrang, hunger without scruple or constraint.
Who was thinking that again? Was it Sorwell?
I think this is,
It
I believe,
sounds like Sorwheel to me,
yeah.
I think. I mean, I'll say. Oh, in the meantime, while you're looking for the quotes, you gotta love Sorwheel for like managing to change his mind about Kellis at least 3 times within the span of like one chapter.
What was the quote where he even thinks it himself? He says, "Oh, he had staggered, reeling from conviction to conviction, worse than a court buffoon." That pretty much describes Sorwell to you guys. Why you both like him and hate him at the same time, because he's real confused.
I
Even
mean,
still, right at the
Yeah.
approach of Golgotharoth, still confused
yeah,
with
I
the
guess I can relate to it. It's like, I read an article, I read a news article like on some topic, and I'm like, oh yeah, like of course this is how things are. Then I read another article that's on something else. I'm like, oh no, of course that makes sense. And then I read another one, and I change my mind again. I think it's very relatable.
It is. It's just I think in this world, it's it seems off because we've been reading about all these horrible people that are willing to do almost anything to survive, and then we get to Sorwheel, and he's like very malleable, like he's one of us in that world, and it's weird.
Yeah, it's true. Like a lot of the other characters that we get to interact with, they all have like very strong convictions. Like they have seem to have all like clear understanding like what's evil and what's good, and or who's evil and who's good. It's usually them who's good and the others are evil. Whereas Surreal is like constantly pivoting from one to the other. I think it's refreshing, but
Hmm.
you seem to disagree, Steve.
Yeah. Well, another thing, and maybe I missed it, but where the hell is the White Luck Warrior?
I think he died in the tsunami, didn't he?
Oh, because we spent a whole book.
It was a long
Well,
book.
not a whole book, but we spent a lot of time. So I hope the White Luck Warrior comes into play somehow. Otherwise, it'll be kind of a bummer.
what did Kellis say about it in these chapters? He said like the god sent assassins who thought they knew like the future, but they don't know the future. I think it was Malawebi thinking it while he's dangling on a belt loop, something.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see more of the White Luck Warrior. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he was never the White Luck Warrior.
I I don't know. Is Soriel still the Narendar? Is he still well, I don't know if he ever was the Narendar, but if he was, or if at least he was somehow connected to Yatwer, is he still the goddess's pawn? Is there? I think we saw some storks
Yeah.
flying over Golgotarath.
Yeah, and when he seen all the bad stuff happening, and he decided how evil Kellis was, and then he started carrying around his Kore in his hand, and he was close enough to Kellis to touch, and close enough to Serway to touch, and he just still won't. Because he's a court buffoon.
True.
And he also has these, like, I don't know if they're visions or if he's just imagining he's talking to the goddess, but he has these, like, yeah, I don't know, visions, I guess, where he's talking to the mother or a mother, someone's mother, um which I don't know if it's supposed to be Yatware or if it's just him imagining things, or if it's just, I don't know, if it's maybe just talking to himself and like it's his way of like coping with everything that's happening around him.
I think it's maybe Yatwer in his mother's voice. Because it seems like the voice is his mom.
Hmm.
Who better to convince you to do something than the voice of your dead mom?
Yep, I guess. um yeah, it's just something, I think there was something he says, or no, she says, he says mother, like he's asking if it's his mom, and then she says, do you see Sorwa? um and he says, what I must do, and she says, no, my child, what you are. And I think it's like right after he walked through the encampment and saw all that gruesome stuff that the ordeal men left behind.
There was a part where he said he thought he recognized several of the faces, but could not summon the will to defile names. What they were doing was just so bad. He didn't want to associate. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of references to the trackless ground when they're at the field appalling, and later on they talk about, I think Zaronga talks about how uh, there's basically nothing you do in this place is sin, because this is like a place without norms and without judgment. But I mean, it was interesting to me, like thinking back to the first trilogy where we had a lot of people talking about the treckless step, and now we're reached a place where that's they refer to it as the treckless ground.
The Sylvandi should be at home. A bunch of
Yeah.
normal humans doing exactly what they usually do.
Well, I mean, it's bizarre. That's kind of strange because the trackless step was, in a way, was like as a metaphor for like liberation and like getting rid of like the yoke of custom and overcoming like useless traditions or traditions that are unnecessarily like binding. So it was kind of like a good thing. At least that's what the way I read it. Um, and it was kind of in juxtaposition to the Skilvendi customs, but here with the truckless ground, it's kind of the opposite. It's like well, it's like the extreme of it. It's like complete abandonment of any kind of norms. It's like it's just
Hmm.
chaos. Um,
Yeah, freedom to just too much freedom.
Hmm.
so I mean, it was interesting thing to think about.
Is this what Baker thinks humanity is? Like, in its essence, it's just like the worst thing ever. If you give it all the freedom, then that's what it becomes.
I think that may be a bit unfair.
Hmm. I think it's isn't it Neor that mentions the non-men seek the absolute.
Someone mentions it.
Everyone in different ways. And Kellis thinks that the only place the absolute could be is the place where the gods can't see, which is Golgotharoth. So if the absolute is hiding anywhere, then he's real close to it.
I feel like I the more hear about the absolute, the less of an understanding I have of what it actually is, or if like everyone seems to think it to be something else. It's very confusing.
That's that's religion. It's like the Christians think it's one way and the Buddhists think it's another way. The Taoists think it's another way. Everyone thinks it's almost completely different, but they're all trying to describe the same thing. I would assume Kellis is better at describing things than old religious people, though.
Well, he's definitely very captivating and very convincing. Uh,
Hmm.
which I mean, that kind of was my issue with the way that the way he presented Proyas's alleged betrayal. It's like I get it, like I understand the reasoning, but it all seemed to happen so fast, and everyone seemed so keen to just believe that Proyas was somehow an agent of the consult. That it made me feel, I don't know, it made it seem like I'm kind I guess I'm kind of it's hard for me to believe that it would happen so quickly, or that people would be so quick to believe that Proyas was a traitor, considering everything that they went through together. And I get that maybe part of it is that it's not that people believed it, but that maybe they just want to believe it. They want to have something or someone tell them that they're not responsible for the awful things that they did. Um, but I mean, it's I don't know. Like usually, Kellis takes like a long, long time to prepare people for these like big declarations and like big changes in leadership, and this all seemed to happen like so quickly that I felt. That's why I say it was a bit underwhelming. Like it just felt like it happened too fast.
Hmm.
I get that. Kellis just pops in out of the blue, blows the tent into the sky.
Yeah, that was very cheesy. Like, come on.
But I could see a sharp difference from like the Holy War army and the Great Ordeal army, and since they all had just did the worst things humans can do, instantly absolving them of the blame is like in their best interest. And then finding some blood to drink is also fun for them.
Yeah, I mean, literally. That was also bizarre. Like Callus tells them off for eating people, and then like 2 minutes later, he's like, "Drink blood from these people."
Yeah, but drinking it now will save you after you just did it and it's bad. They're thirsty though, so they did it. Now they probably all feel pretty good. The way it was described, like all of a sudden the whole crowd turned into like flower petals because the one guy's in the middle trying not to get grabbed by all the other guys, and then the flower petal like dissolving. It was pretty cool. Akamian couldn't quite figure out what was going on though.
As
Yeah.
usual.
He's always a little too late.
Yeah.
He's stuck in the past, the prophet of the past. But now his past and his present have pretty much converged.
The
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna talk about something else.
Well, same.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna say that the hanging was. I felt kind of numb, but then I feel like maybe I'm still processing what happened. Again, like it happened so like I wasn't. It took me even a while to understand that they were being hanged, and then it happened so quickly that I was like, are they? I wasn't even sure if they were dead, and then I read the. I think I read the part where like a comment. Well, no, it was that what happened right. But then I finally understood they were like dead, and it's like okay, now I'm starting to feel sad. And then the next chapter, like I find out that Proas is not dead, and Callus is like drawing him up the ledge, and then I'm like okay, so I felt like maybe he's not going to. So he's not going to die. Like I'm happy again, and then he kicks him down the ledge again and hangs. I was it was an emotional roller coaster,
Yeah.
and I had a lot of questions about that part.
You gave him some water, tried to be nice, and then all of a sudden he wasn't nice anymore. He's still Dunyan, maybe.
I don't know. It was just weird because he says, "I don't want." He says something like along the lines like he doesn't want Proyas to die, or that it's too soon for Proyas to die. So I was like, okay, so maybe he's going to send him somewhere, like maybe some other use for him. And then he kills him again, and I did not understand why.
Wait,
Like if he was gonna kill him again, why just not let him die quickly?
Like he asked for. He asked for him to just be done with it.
hmm.
You know, why have this conversation with Proas and then kill him again?
And what did he say when he was asking questions? That like everything's darkness now, so he doesn't know like what he should do. So he's just gonna tell the truth now.
Hmm.
That's all that he can do is tell the truth.
But also a lie.
Sometimes the truth can be multifaceted if you're a Dunyan. And I feel
Mm,
bad for Sronga too, but it was a morale boost to the army. They instantly needed someone to blame for all their wives and children probably being dead.
Hmm.
They didn't
wh-
seem to take that news too bad, actually.
I mean, why would they? Why did they need to know at all? Like, why tell them?
I actually don't think that Kellis said that they were all dead. He said that he went there and found his house in disarray and he fixed it. And then he came back and found this house in disarray. Now he has to fix it. So maybe they all still kind of think that everything's fine back home.
And the Kamian came Kamian, probably mispronouncing, as I've had from the very beginning. But he does have on page 171. Tell me, what do you see? What am I?
Right.
In the cradle of the
That,
no god.
that's that's from one of the dreams, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the way back from the fields of Mangetta in the
Mm.
second book, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was. You thought it was the 30. One of them.
Tsuruma.
So his dreams are creeping into his awakeness now, maybe.
Looks like it. Yeah. Ugh.
There was a cool, like, someone wrote a letter to their wife while they were on the Great Ordeal. Did you guys see that?
Was it in the epigraphs or where was it?
Yeah. Said the teeth come alive when you are starving, so anxious are they to chew and chew, as if convinced they need only bite to find gratification. Simplicity becomes ferocious when bare survival becomes the matter. I fear I will have no more vellum to write you after this, supposing you receive anything. It shall all be eaten, along with the boots, the harness, the belts, and our honor.
Oh, I read it, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if it was someone from the ordeal or just some random person writing about how they're starving.
Hmm.
That
Uh,
was one of the letters that made it back from the ordeal. That was probably before they really ate their honor, too. This is only when they first started nibbling on the honor.
yeah, I don't think they have much of their honor left. Well, uh,
It's it's all in Golgotharoth, and they have to go get it back. There's still a group of people that just still think it's their granary and they want it open so they can eat all the meat. There's a couple different groups in the Great Ordeal now.
Wild.
Meat eaters
um,
and vegetarians.
I was kind of surprised that a lot of them, or at least part portion of the Great Ordeal, resisted to the temptation,
Hmm.
including Zoronga. He was one of those who did not eat any. Well, I think he ate the shrank meat, but he didn't eat the human flesh. He didn't eat the scalded.
With only one of the judges left that was guiding all them.
Yeah, they. They ate the judges. Um, there's there's the line where Proyas, after he's been hanged for the first time, he asks Kellis if he's saved, um, or if he's damned, and Kellis is like, I have no clue. He said like he says, I am no prophet. Um, and then
He tells him that he saved lots of people, so what's his one little soul compared to all the people he saved?
yeah, and then he talks about where is the part that I really struggled with. Um, yeah, he talks about the Incroy. He says the most horrific thing to understand Proyas is that at some point the Incroy must win. At some point, perhaps this year or ages hence, the whole of humanity will be butchered. Think on it. Why did Momas strike Momem, his namesake city, and not this infernal place? Why is eternity blind to Golgotha? Because it stands outside eternity, outside of what the gods can see. And that blindness is nothing short of breathtaking. Proyas, our actions, our great ordeal, follows a doom outside of doom. We undertake a pilgrimage that rewrites the hundred with every step. So it's the part where he says that at some point the Inquiry must win. That's where I was like, wait, so are you telling me that it's this has already been decided that like regardless of what you do here at some point the inquiry will close the outside? Is that what he's saying here?
It seems like that's what he's saying. Does that mean he's Team Ikarai now?
Sorry, is he what?
Is he the leader of the, or soon to be leader of the Unholy Consult then? Or is he still trying to fight against him even though he thinks that eventually they'll win? Does that seem like a Dunyan thing to do? Fight a losing battle?
Hmm.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder. I guess it made me wonder if the consult wins or will win eventually, then and that's the reason and we'll close the outside, and that's the reason why the gods cannot comprehend the console. They can't see it. They can't see it. The future of the console is how is that connected to Kellis and the fact that the gods are also not able to see what his future will be. Like the fact that they send the Nerindar and then the Nerindar fails to assassinate him. Does that imply that in that future where the Inquiry have won, is Callus or also going to be in that future? Is he also alive in that future? Or or at least in some way like he's still there playing some role.
I have no idea.
I mean, I don't expect you to say to have an idea, Steve, but maybe some speculation.
I just keep going back to what you said. I don't know how many books, but we've talked about it before. The famous line of "The more I read, the less I know." That's I just keep thinking of that. I don't know. It just gets deeper and deeper.
It's pretty weird that, like earlier, you said all the strings are coming together, and then it's still getting more and more confusing, and the strings are coming more and more together.
I
Well,
guess, I guess they're not mutually exclusive. The
well, I
two.
think like the where like I guess geographically where they are, we're getting to the point where we're getting to Golgotha. That's what we've been kind of anticipating, or at least it's been on the horizon for so long, and they're finally there at the doorstep. But motivations, I mean, I don't know. It's a mystery to me still. There's a lot of things I'm not too sure, but I don't expect it to be wrapped up until maybe the very end for a lot of it, or maybe not even at all, which would be kind of frustrating. Gotta say.
I think Baker still has a couple more surprises for you guys. Probably shocking surprises.
Hmm.
That's good. I mean, I will say like a lot of the stuff that I thought was maybe going to happen at the end of this book has already happened. Um, like Proyas and Zaronga um, departing, and the men turning into basically Strang. Like all that stuff, I thought it was just going to come at the very end, and that's already passed. So um, I'm curious what what still awaits us.
Well, it doesn't look like, and I hate to. I'm really trying not to look at the chapter names because I think there's things, but no, we finished off on 10, so 11, 12, and 13. We don't, according to the chapter names, we don't get into Golgotha until 14. So there's still a lot more that can happen before they even go inside, or until that. But I expect that to be, um, I don't know. I don't even know what to expect. But there's still more that's going to happen before the. It seems like before we get into Golgotha. So what else can go wrong?
Yeah. And they definitely can't be doing much traveling in the, before they get to Golgotha because they are there. So that
Well,
should be
I'm
good,
happy to hear that.
Katerina.
Yes, I'm looking forward to not any walking.
I think it was Dan, the black and blue collar reader, mentioned because he had finished this book I think recently, and he had mentioned I really like the story, but I just wish he'd tell the story and not linger or not kind of spend so much time. Um, but I didn't mind it too much that we were kind of lingering a little bit. We're not moving forward. So I'm not sure what you both think of that. Like, I think he was just a little frustrated that we just weren't moving along. Like the story wasn't progressing fast enough.
I I mean, I kind of agree, kind of disagree. I would happily do without the parts where people just walk and walk on. But I kind of wish that we had spent more time in Ishterabinth and more time um, with the Great Ordeal. But in like, I mean, like some of my favorite parts about the series from the series or like from the first trilogy are like the politics of the Holy War and the fact like I mean like the Holy War like objectively speaking like it also like there was also a lot of walking, but I never felt like that was the focus of those books. Like it felt like it was much more um we were much more focused on like the characters like interacting with one another, like spending time like, having conversations, plotting against each other, like the politics, the conspiracies and contra conspiracies. And I kind of wish that I guess I wish the Great Ordeal was more like that because that's what I enjoyed about the Holy War. Um, and yeah, just like a lot of the places that we passed through along the way, like the mentions, the Istarabins. I wish we had more time. Like I wish maybe we'd gotten there earlier, had more time to get to know the people or the non men there. Um, so I don't know if like what you make of that answer, but
Hmm.
that's I guess that's how I felt or felt so far about these books.
And I think half of what Baker is doing is trying to question like a lot of the old fundamental philosophical questions. And the story is sort of secondhand when the struggle with like what is human, what is like free will are all more what he wanted to explore. And he said that before. He said that fantasy is just like the vehicle that he gets to like explore his philosophical questions with.
Seems like more horror, didn't it? It seemed pretty horror esque.
This book, or
The second series, I think, is more horror. Even going back to the Judging Eye, maybe not so much the White Luck Warrior, a little bit, but the series I think is more. I don't know. Maybe the first series I'd say is fantasy, but the second part has been very. I don't know. Lots of horror elements.
Yeah, I
I
think
did,
the first series maybe focuses more on the psychology of the characters, and there may be fewer magical elements.
religious, mystical elements.
Mm.
I think that there's like a kind of a pretty direct correlation with like metaphysical things and horror, right? Ghosts and just like any horror is like something that's not quite real. Unless it's a serial killer or something, which is also horror, which we have in these books. They're just not that scary. That's not the scary thing they do, is serial killing people. That's just,
There's too many of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a Tuesday for most of the characters. Nair with his scarred cheeks and scarred neck and probably X's on his ears. I don't know where all he has all the X's, but I think everywhere. His whole body is littered with all the X's.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any part left untouched.
Hmm.
I think he did his neck when he killed what he thought was Kellis or something.
Yep. And then in this book, it mentions that he even has the Swazan on his face.
All over his face. Yeah.
Hmm.
Probably a pretty scary looking guy.
Yeah.
I would not want to meet him. But I do think he's a great character. But I
But
also kind of wish he was dead. For everyone concerned, I think they would probably wish he was dead.
he's a good general for the No God, the consult.
Well, is he though? I mean, he has a tendency to be quite unpredictable and unstable.
This is true.
And there is also more passages. You hear voices that very closely or very close to like prayer. We talked about this last week, but it seems like we're getting more of that too now.
All the fun scriptures Kellis wrote.
Mm. So
There's at the very last page of chapter 10. I think, yeah, I think it's from Proyas's point of view, he uh, he references a golden crown. He says, let me just read it. Um, the sun breaches the summits rearing behind them, and looking out and up from his meat where it dangles, the skeptic king sees it, truly sees, a golden crown for a head greater than any mountain, a laurel set upon negligent earth, an infinite abdication. What is supposed to be the crown? Is that Golgotha that he's looking at? Is it the ark and the horns? Is that what he's seeing, and he thinks he's thinking to himself that it looks like a crown? Or is it something else? And then he talks about an infinite abdication. Um so who, if that's the crown, then who has put it down? Like, who has abdicated? Who is he referencing, or who's he referring to? Do you have any thoughts, guesses?
Is it a halo?
It says a golden crown for a head greater than any mountain.
Hmm. Oh,
Since he's dangling, seeing Sranga and Golgotha, it might be Golgotha, right? Because the way they describe it, it's like one straight up horn and one canted horn that sits kind of to the side, and they both go all the way up through the clouds. It seems like there's a layer that's like always frosted over because it's so high. And maybe if you were in enough pain, which is probably causes like semi hallucinations, then it would look like a crown for a head as big as a mountain. Maybe it's the god of gods watching the battlefield. Maybe the god of gods can't see.
Maybe, like, I mean, I guess maybe he's referring to the apathy or this disinterest of the god of gods. It's like right before the on the page right before that, he's talking to Kellis, and they talk about the god of gods, and Kellis says, um, the god of gods is as blind to his creation as we are blind to ourselves.
hmm.
So I guess in some way you could say that the god of gods has abdicated from engaging in worldly matters. But yeah, I wasn't sure. Like, I wasn't sure if what kind of a matter, like if it was referring to something like more important, or if it was just more just a metaphor for like how he was feeling and what he was seeing around him. Um, and then he continues, and he thinks back to his father, and he says, on his deathbed, proud Onoias had called for his son, knowing that he would not come, um, because it mattered not at all what a life makes of a soul, not at all. And then he says, the world is more real, parsed into light and shadow. The distances are more distant, and we are less embroiled. Impunity leaps from the cracks between us, and we punish whom we will. And again, I wasn't sure if he meant if that was just like he was losing it, like if he he was like hallucinating and basically kind of semi dead already and just not really making sense, or if it was more him like I feel like I don't know if it was supposed to like refer to or like explain something about like the outside and like about the judgment and about whether he was transitioning to the outside or maybe like not because he died at Golgotha or almost at Golgotha, if like he was going to be damned or not, because when he says that it matters not at all what a life makes of a soul. So I'm sorry, I'm just rambling, but I'm like, what does this mean? Is it or how am I supposed to understand this? What's
Or are we
the
supposed to understand it at this point?
yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I guess we'll see if that's the last thoughts Broyes ever had, if it's his end of life epiphany.
Hmm.
So I mean, if that's his epiphany, like what is the epiphany that no matter what you do, you'll always end up in hell? Like that's kind of how it reads to me. Like especially if you're someone who was born into power. Because I think that's a conversation that I think Proas has with his father, where they talk about the fact that like if you have power, you're basically by default you will go to hell.
Yeah, Steve said at the beginning of this podcast, power is damnation, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's maybe like him just saying it doesn't matter what he was already damned. It didn't really matter all the things he did. Like there was never ever way for him to escape damnation. I mean it's very depressing.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. That's what this book's supposed to teach you, that ignorance is bliss.
Being a slave is a blessing.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough. Well, as much as I enjoyed it, now that we're trying to talk about it, it's like it's hard to discuss because it's just so surreal and doesn't. It, it felt like a dream.
Yeah. I mean I found them pretty difficult to read and maybe even harder to talk about. As you
There,
can as you witnessed for the past 90 minutes.
there's a part where it said like everyone in the ordeal was whittled to the point of a private apocalypse. Like after they had done all the worst stuff in the world, that like they were on the verge of like a soul apocalypse, if that makes sense. And now they're sobering up from that. But whether they're all damned or they're all not damned, I guess we'll just have to see if we get answers or if we just have to make assumptions.
Mm.
Assumptions would be they did worse things than anyone else has ever done, so they're probably not gonna have great endings. It seemed like they were like cutting holes in living people and raping them, and that's bad. It's like
It's
the
pretty bad.
worst. That's the worst of the worst, I think.
I mean, who decides what's bad and what's not? Like, I still don't know. Maybe it's okay. I mean, like, what do the Sifrang do when you come to hell? Like, rip you into pieces and eat you. So is that good? Is that bad? If that's bad, then why do they punish you the same? Well, I mean, I don't, I don't. I'm just saying that I don't know anything at this point. I wouldn't be too surprised if all the good people end up in hell and whatnot.
If good ends up not being good in the end.
Yeah,
Hmm.
or if it's just arbitrary. Um,
And just like they said earlier, like if you're a snake, you're definitely going to heaven no matter what you do. And if you're a rabbit, you're going to hell no matter what you do. Just
Hmm.
arbitrary. Humans, just by their human nature, all go to hell.
Yeah.
I think at least humans in this world, by their human nature. There's probably some good enough people on Earth to make it to Irwa heaven.
I also feel like in our world, you don't really get the opportunity to do things that are so this bad. I guess there are some people who do like nasty things, but for the most part, it's that's not really much of an incentive or
Hmm.
opportunity.
Yeah, that was 400 years ago. I don't know, maybe less in some places.
Yeah.
Some countries, bad things happen all the time.
Hmm.
I wonder if there's a country where women aren't allowed to wear boots. You guys think there is?
Probably, or
Probably.
they're not allowed to do other stuff. It doesn't have to be boots, I guess. Um, I have a nice quote by Sir Wheel, I think, where he talks about life and what it's like to live a life.
Hmm.
And he says, "It was all a sham, living a life, forever stumbling, lurching, chasing resolutions that you name as your own, forever coming after what you are. Differences spew from the oblivion of the same, and events forever tumble, delivering twists, turns, surprises that are in no way surprising. And there you are, suffocating in the aching heart of it all, ducking across the numb perimeter, coming to be coming to be only in the lee of your questions. That ghost fools call a reflection. You waken with a start, gas about a missing heartbeat, and find yourself doing things. You wonder if you ever had a father." So uplifting.
What was that? All fathers beat their sons, or what was that line?
Yeah, that was. It's now that you bring it up that I think it was mentioned twice. I
Kellis
think
yells it to the army.
and Nayor. I think Nayor tells it to Moangas, or at least Moangas thinks it. I'm not sure if it's Nayor who says it or Moangas. Um, but it is, yeah, it's interesting that it was brought up in the two different contexts.
Yeah, these are tough ones to discuss. Harder than I thought they'd be to like put it all together to kind of recap. It's strange. I think I'm more confused now than I was before.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's because there's things that I don't think about until we talk, and then it's like I never thought of it that way, and then I'm like I have no idea.
That's true. But I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, that
Yeah,
means there's some benefits to these conversations, I guess.
of course there is.
Um, I mean, I guess the only thing that we haven't talked about is Serwa and Sorreal and their relationship, if there is any. I kind of got the idea that, I mean, Sorreal seems to be very much in love with Serwa. Um, but he also manages to sleep with Zoranga just like because I guess on the same day. I don't know, she seems like she's kind of into him, but knows that it's too dangerous for her to like display any affection publicly. And then she also is the one who um, basically like captures Zoranga and brings him to Kellis. At least that's like what I gathered from the context. So I wonder how. I guess I wonder like how does Sorwell feel about Serwa now that she's kind of sort of responsible for the death of his friend slash lover, and what how does like what Sorwell feels, or what does she think about Sorwell, and is she actually attracted to him, or is it, is there some hidden agenda that she has?
I think there's got to be a hidden agenda, right?
I think he was debating whether she would sacrifice everything like her dad did for the thousandfold thought. If he's just as easily sacrificed, or maybe he's Esmnet, who's not as easily sacrificed.
Don't know.
I
Maybe
guess we'll
Esmnet's
find
easily
out.
sacrificed. I guess we're gonna see. Proyas was easily sacrificed. Katerina thought it was too easily. Should have been a couple more pages.
Yeah, maybe just like two, three, four, five.
Couple,
A couple.
couple.
Um, a couple.
But as far as like the slowness of these books, I kind of get what the black and blue collar reader was talking about. The story itself is kind of slow because it's sort of secondary to R. Scott Baker being able to question life, the universe, and everything.
I think that's fair. Maybe I wish it was done maybe like in a in a conversation between characters, rather than just reading these like long passages where it's sort of like this omniscient narrator that's just telling you like what's happening on the ground below you. Um,
We got a little bit from Malawebi's head.
but
He's
I mean,
pretty
again,
confused too, though, trying to figure out where his body is and what
he's
he can
like,
do.
am I a soul? Oh, I'm just the head. And wait, Callus is my enemy, but oh wait, he was right all along. Um, but I mean, still, like he's. I guess we have like there are like a lot of characters that don't have anyone to talk to. Like Malebe, like it's interesting. It's an interesting perspective, but he's still like you only like can read his thoughts or about his thoughts. Like he's not. There isn't anyone that he could have a conversation with, which I think might make it more accessible or like more easier to read if you have like maybe two characters like bouncing off each other. But that's just my preference. I generally like I tend to like in these, at least in this series, like I tend to enjoy like conversations between characters a lot. Um,
Hmm.
and I feel like we maybe in the second series, in this series, that we get like a lot of like very like solitary characters who can't really talk to anyone about what they're thinking and feeling, either because there is no one there or they're too scared, like they don't know who they can trust, so that they have to keep everything to themselves.
Seems like that happens a lot.
There's some more interesting conversations that will happen.
I'm looking forward to them.
No doubt. Yeah.
This book, we had the survivor and the crab hand. That was
Oh yeah.
interesting, getting a new Dunyan perspective of life.
Where is Crab Hands? We didn't see him, do we?
He's running around the woods somewhere.
Yeah, he outmaneuvered the skin spy. Now he's just kind of roaming. Hmm. Wonder what's gonna happen with him. Maybe nothing.
I, maybe nothing. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe he's going to show up at the very last page and save the day.
Him and Kilmomus fight it out. Crab hands versus Kill.
But I mean, that would be an interesting, interesting duel.
That'd be a good showdown. Wow. Yeah. So, anything else you guys can think of from this one?
I think I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how good we did, but I guess we tried our best. I was sprawling.
Yeah. It was kind of a strange. It's hard to discuss because it's very very weird.
Disorganized as the Great Ordeal is.
Mm.
Used to be a tight army. Now it's just a whole bunch of like individual mobs of people.
It was a bit messy, but yeah, I think we tried our best.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, for those of you reading along with us, next week we will be discussing 11, 12, and 13. We'll stop at 14. For reasons, Daniel suggested that we'd stop there. So, 11, 12, and 13 for next week. So, we'll take another stab at it. But it is. I'm excited. I think I've said this more than once, but it's fun to be near the end, but it's also a little sad that we're getting to the end. So
I'm getting anxious.
At least that must means that you think it's a good book. If it's a bad book, you're excited in other ways to get to the end. Sad excited means that you're at least enjoying it.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I guess I'm enjoying it. I think I maybe was enjoying the Great Ordeal a little bit more. Um, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm a little bit concerned that we're almost halfway through and we're like still not at Kolgatarath, and a lot of these people are still alive, and I don't know, like if they're like if it seems too short of a book to like get to Golgotha and then have like a big, you know, resolution of everything, and like the part where you like travel back from Mordor to the Shire, and I don't feel like that'll fit into this book.
I kind of expected to once we get to the point, maybe in Golgotharoth, but once we get to a certain point, I kind of feel like everything's going to wrap up very quickly. Like it's going to be very abrupt and not too drawn out. Like we'll have a lot of answers in a very short period of time. That's kind of what I'm expecting.
That would go along with Steve's everybody dies theory. There's
So
not
you
very
have
many stories to wrap up if everyone's dead.
There you
Everyone's
go.
stories pretty much ended.
Problem
yeah,
solved.
there's no one left in Shire to go back to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there is a Shire. Is there a Shire? I don't think there is a Shire in these books.
No.
Huh. Oh,
The
really?
Mama never made it out. They're still slaves. They might be just going to make a Shire right now, though, since Isturbin's collapsed. Who knows what these little
They're
weird.
taking over. They're the next race to
Taking the
be
torch.
yep.
Maybe the Shrank and a dragon will go to the Shire and burn it down.
Oh, that would be a fitting ending.
We still do have a decaying dead flying dragon somewhere, right?
The Raku. The Raku. Yeah. Lots of stuff. Lots of things. Lots of things still in the air. It's kind of
But
wild.
everyone's in the same area, finally. It hasn't been since the Great Ordeal, since everyone's all been within a nuclear bomb's distance of each other.
Spells trouble, for sure. So, 11, 12, and 13 for next week. I guess, are we worse on outros or worse on intros?
I just wave in the outros. That's what I do.
But people listening on the podcast can't see you wave. So,
Well, I suppose I can say something, but there's not much to say.
yeah. Daniel, any closing thoughts?
Nope. I guess we will see everyone next week for
Yeah.
the beginning of the last half of the book.
Katerina, any prediction? Anything at all?
No, don't make me do this again. Uh, no.
Okay. All right.
How do you guys think a meeting between Mimara and Esmnet is going to go, or would go? How would that go, do you guys think?
Very awkward.
Mimara, who now has Acamian's maybe 2 kids,
And the judge and I.
I think
and
they
the
just
judging eye.
I think they would just start yelling at each other. Like that's usually what happens when I spend too much time with my mom. Like we love each other, but we also should not spend too much time in one room together. And I'm
They
getting
def-
the same vibe off of Esmenet and Maimara.
you definitely learn the right buttons to push the more you're around someone.
That's for sure.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they'll maybe they'll hug and then they just immediately start getting on each other's nerves. That's my prediction.
Okay. All right. So until next week, everyone have a great rest of your day or night or whatever it is, and whatever you're listening or watching. And we can all be found on page chewing on the forums if you want to contact us there. So we'll see you everybody next week.
I'm waving.